The word to wean means to grow up. Daniel was weaned in the Lord. Would you write that down? He was, which means this. Daniel had, though he was young, had to feed, he had to learn to feed on his own. He had to stand on his own and learn. Daniel, though he was young, had to spiritually stand on his own. See, no one is going to try and check up on you and see if you're doing devotions. Check up on you, see if you go to church. No. We've got to come into our own to say, doesn't matter if anybody checks up on me or not, I've got to be weaned, which means I've got to learn to feed myself. And that's exactly what happened with Daniel. Otherwise, we'll blame everybody else. Well, Mom didn't get me up, that's why I didn't go to church. You didn't pick me up, that's why I didn't go. You know, I don't have a journal, so that's why I can't do my devotion. I'm too busy. And when we do that, we're constantly blaming others for our lot in life. And our lack of maturity is somebody else's fault. You will never, listen, you will never develop a spirit of excellence if you're constantly blaming others for your lot in life. Daniel said, I will not do that. It is my responsibility. And he was weaned in the Lord. And then you're on your way to developing genuine character, because I won't blame anybody else. I will learn and I will stand on my own. Otherwise, you'll always be at somebody else's fault. And you can be 70 years old and you will still be thinking it's somebody else's fault. When children, my own children, when they're weaned, I mean, it's a time of celebration, isn't it? When my little kids learn to finally feed themselves, because I'm tired of feeding them. They learn to feed themselves. I'm tired of changing their diapers. Finally, when they go on their own, wonderful. I remember when my daughter, the first time, Anna called me from the bathroom, honey, come quick. So I run in the bathroom thinking someone was injured or something. Well, it was the first time that Amy sat down and, did a plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And so, by herself. So she said, look, she did a plop, plop, fizz, fizz by herself. Oh, man, it was so exciting. We exchanged lays, took pictures, had cake and ice cream. It was just a wonderful day in history. And Daniel said the same thing. He said, I must be weaned in the Lord. Now, was that easy? Nah, listen carefully. As you're growing or maturing in respect to salvation, because you want to develop a genuine and a character that's your default, not your reach point, but that's just who you are, so it's your identity. You're not fighting against that. It's just your base camp. Because a lot of times people fight against themselves just to be honest, fight against themselves just to be kind, fight against themselves just to be disciplined in the Lord. Well, Daniel worked at it so much that it flipped and it was his default, and he didn't have to fight against it anymore. But in order to get there, watch this, there's going to be a time where there's going to be a season in your life where you're doing the things God is asking you to do, but your flesh is fighting against it. I've got to be honest, but I don't want to be. I've got to be kind. I don't want to be kind. I need to be gracious, but I don't want to be gracious. I need to submit, but I don't want to submit. And you're going to have this fighting inside of you. You know what I'm talking about? There's going to be a season of war. Most people, listen carefully, most people never survive that season. They succumb to the flesh and say, it's easier just to do it my old way. And they flip back to the world's way of doing it because it was more comfortable then. But listen, there's going to be a season where you know what to do and your flesh is fighting. Like you're sitting in front of your boss and your boss says, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. I want you to be on time. And you're on the outside going, yes, okay, yes. But inside you're saying, I hate your guts. You're ugly. You're an idiot. I don't like you. As soon as I get out of here, I'm going to quit. When I get to the employee lunchroom, I'm telling everybody what an idiot you are. You're ugly. But on the outside, you're going, yes, yes. And you're going to feel like a hypocrite. You're going to feel like there's such an inconsistency, and you're going to feel like a fake and a sham. Now listen carefully. You're going to want to say, forget it then. I'm not going to do it because that's not my heart. No. It's not your heart you're talking about. It's your flesh. You're fighting against what the Spirit of God is saying, and your flesh is wanting to win. Because your flesh has been the base or your default for so long. You want to flip it so that your default system is genuine godly character. But you're fighting. And right there's going to be that tension. And what you're doing is, I know it's right, but I feel like such a sham because I don't feel like doing it. It's at that point where you don't give in to the flesh. When the flesh says, no, that's not you. You want to tell them what you think. Go ahead and tell them. And you just be gracious anyway. And the flesh yells, you just tell your flesh, shut up. Yes. Even though it sounds funny, that's what you have to do. And you've got to survive that season, because there's going to be a season. There's going to be war. Let's read what it says here in Hebrews 5:14. Go. Those who are oh, did we fill in that thing yet? No. Okay, all right. But here's what Daniel did. Here's what Daniel did. He stayed with it, and he trained until he was genuine. He trained until he was genuine. Because at first, you don't feel genuine. But watch this. You keep doing what God is telling you, it won't be long before you say, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. That's the kind of heart that I want to have. I want to be genuinely gracious. And he kept training until the things of God flipped and became his base camp, his default. He trained until he became what? Genuine. Now, let's read what it says. Ready? Go. Those who are mature have trained themselves to recognize the difference between right and wrong, and then what? They do what is, Those who are what? Mature. What? You mean, those that have grown in the Lord. And they're developing a spirit of excellence. But you can't develop that until your default system is genuine character of godliness. How do you get there? War. There's a season where you're going to feel like such a sham. But let me tell you, and I've shared this before, sometimes it's going to be really, really tough. But I remember when I was playing racquetball, no one taught me how to play racquetball. I was not trained, but I just picked it up. And because I'm a scrapper, I did pretty well. And I was playing in a tournament. It was about a 3-day tournament. And when there was a veteran coach watching me. After one of my games that I won, the coach came to me and said, you know, Wayne, your grip is wrong. And even though you're winning, if you keep the same grip, where you've advanced to right now is as far as you will advance. You won't get any better. But if you'll let me, I will help you change your grip, and your stroke will change a little bit, and you will advance much further than where you are right now. And I'll help you. And I said, man, please, please. So the next day before the tournament began, he helped me change my grip. But when he changed the grip, it felt so terrible. It was so uncomfortable. I said, no, I like it this way. He said, no, you change it this way. It's an extension of your arm, and you hold it like this, not like this. It's like this. And I said, it's no good. He said, no, just stay with this. Stay with this. Even though it feels uncomfortable, stay with this, because it will really help you. Because it'll help on your backhand. You don't want to do a backhand this way. You want to do it down this, and you bring your whole back through it, and you can just crack that ball in the back walls. It comes off the back wall. And so I played my first tournament game with this new grip. I got smashed. I hardly scored a point. And I was getting beat, and I turned around, and he was behind the glass, and I said, this stinks. He said, you keep that grip. I said, I hate it. He said, you keep that. I said, I'm losing. He said, don't care. You keep that grip. I lost every game that day. I got smashed. The next day, I lost I was out of the tournament. And I came up to him, and I said, are you like working for the other side or something? He said, no, I promise you, if you work on that grip, you will advance. And it feels very uncomfortable now, but you stay with it. And you know what? After the next 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 games, I began to win and win and win big. And you know what was once uncomfortable now became very comfortable. And now I can't go back to the old way. It's the new way, and it's the right way. But how did I get there? A season of uncomfortableness, but you go by what is right, not how you feel. And now, man, the ball was coming off the back, and I'd watch that, and with this new grip, man, I just go whap. And then, the goal is to get that racquetball as close to the floor as possible so it just kind of rolls out. The other people can't get it. Man, I was hitting it up against that wall. It was so low, man, my opponents would have to use a spatula to get that thing off the ground. I thought, whoa. But for a season, it was so uncomfortable. And there's going to be a season that you're in that you're going to have to just train, and even though it seems uncomfortable, you stay with that grip. But I'm losing. Stay with that grip. Well, why do you lose then? I'll tell you why. There was a season before I came to know the Lord right here. I was throwing bad seed in my life. I'd swear at people when I didn't like them. I would steal. I would use all kinds of wrong methods. I'd shortcut. I'd be underhanded. I'd just do whatever to get myself ahead. I'd sow bad seed. But listen, when you sow bad seed, what are you going to reap? Bad fruit. So I'd get in fights. I was in fist fights. I got, as many of you know, I got kicked out of my first high school. I dropped out of my second one because of fighting. My brother got kicked out of 2 schools. And we were just in trouble all the time. But we were sowing bad seed and we're reaping bad fruit. Now watch. I come to know the Lord. And the sowing of the bad seed stopped. Bless you. I stopped it. But that was an authoritative sneeze. But I stopped throwing bad seed. Now watch this. Even though I've stopped throwing bad seed, now I'm throwing good seed. I'm going to church. I'm trying to do what God's telling me to do. Obey God. Give like I'm supposed to. Be nice to people. But remember, I was throwing what kind of seed? Bad seed. Now watch. Now, because I've thrown bad seed, guess what's happened? Guess what's germinating? The bad seed. Now I'm throwing good seed, but guess what's coming up? Bad fruit. Now listen very carefully. This will really confuse you if you don't understand this. I was throwing good seed and I was losing all my games. Everything was coming up unfavorable to me. People would be betraying me. Relationships would be breaking up. And I remember standing before God saying, God, I'm trying to do everything you're telling me to do. I'm trying to obey you and go to church, and everything is falling apart. I lost my job. The relationship I was in broke up. Everything's going bad, and I'm trying to do the best I can. And you know what? It is right during that season that a lot of people bail out because they're serving God for results. Now listen to Daniel. Daniel sowing good seed, and his friends get thrown into the blazing furnace. And his friend said this, our God will save us, but even if he doesn't, it's okay. See, they weren't serving God for results, were they? They said, we're going to serve God, doesn't matter what's coming up. Listen carefully. There's going to be some bad stuff coming up, some weeds and some briars, but you keep sowing good seed. And it's not God that's doing it. It's the seed that you and I sowed before that's now just starting to germinate. But you keep obeying God. There was an interview with a celebrity out of Nashville that's very against God. And the question was asked him, and just on television a couple weeks ago, why don't you serve God? Because he was asked if he goes to church. He said, I ain't going to church. How come? This is what he said. My brother was dying, and I asked God to save him, and so he wouldn't die. My brother died anyway, so if God's not going to help me, that's it. Forget it. And I thought, you're serving God only if he gives you what you want. But that's not a spirit of excellence. You see, a spirit of excellence says, I'm going to keep serving God and sowing right seed and obeying him, even if stuff comes up bad. And even if I'm losing games, I'm going to, as a coach says, keep that grip. Because it will start to feel comfortable after a while. But you've got to sustain yourself through the season. And it's not whether or not God's going to give me results. I'm going to choose. I don't care what the results are. I'm going to keep serving God. And then God says, there's a man, there's a woman whose default system has changed, not based on results, but based on the fact that I'm going to serve God, period. Now, you've got as your home base genuine godly character. Once that's set, you are now going to start to develop a spirit of excellence. But it won't happen until that takes place. Some of you may be in that season right now, and you're saying, I'm sowing good seed, I'm trying my best, God, and it's all going against me. God says, don't change that grip. Yeah, but I'm losing. Don't change that grip. Survive. Stay with it. And Daniel did that. Now I'm beginning to understand. When they said, Daniel, we're going to throw you into the den of lions, he said, my God will save me, but even if he doesn't, it's all right. Now I'm beginning to understand when Job's wife said, Job, everything's coming up against you. Just curse God and die. Job said, nope, even though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Now I'm starting to understand why these were men and women that God guarded, because he said, these are few and far between. These are the people that will change communities and families and nations and generations. Not many of them. And so Daniel, he trained until it was what? Genuine.